Live from Liverpool, we don't need to talk about ghosts with Kevin Eustace.
Well, hello, you wonderful, beautiful, dare I say, highly intelligent people that wouldn't storm a Capitol building. Not my listeners, no siree. Oh my lord, what is happening? It doesn't matter what's happening because you don't come here for tales of woe from around the world, no matter the absolute state the world's in. No, you come here, like I do this, for a break from reality and for a little bit of brevity, levity and jevity. Yes, jevity. I just made that one up. It's the same as levity and brevity, but there's a few more Jeffs involved. Jeff Capes. I don't know any other Jeffs. Jeff from Biker Grove. That was a UK program for kids back in the day about a youth club called Biker Grove. Anyway, how are you? In fact, here's my impression of Jeff from Biker Grove. He was a Geordie fella. He'd go, "Who done it? I'll find out, you know." That's what he would say. And he had big sideburns, yes. I hope that you're all fantastically well and you've managed to not look at any news in the last few days. This is, of course, a don't episode, which means that we may not be talking about ghosts. We will be a bit. And obviously, I'm then going to go off and record a Patreon one where we will probably talk a bit more about ghosts. So I want to basically know how you've been, guys. This Sunday show that's coming up, it's going to be dead good, regardless. It was going to be much better, if you will, because I had two guests planned instead of just the one that there will be. Unfortunately, I had to reschedule with one of the guests last night due to all of this nonsense in the world. But we will reschedule that for next week, and you will hear that caller's amazing stories next week. But we do have a special guest on Sunday coming up, which is very fun and very good and very nice. Stay safe, guys. I know that, I mean, who the hell am I? I sound like something off a really cheesy sitcom or something. Stay safe, guys, you know, for stay safe for sure, but do stay safe, sincerely, because the world's full of knobheads. Pardon my French, but the world is full of knobheads. That's NOBHEADS, HEADS. Yes, you get to have an NOB. Anyway, so what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about many things. I've just stumbled across, when doing a little root and a little clean, and a very little clean, I do mean that, two books that were purchased for me as a gift by a lovely person way back when, in like 2010, maybe earlier, possibly earlier, probably much earlier. One is Irish Ghosts, amazing, and one is Scottish Witches and Wizards. If you're new to the show, you're wondering what the hell is going on during this episode. Well, basically, midweek, once every other week, at the start of lockdown, I began to do a little midweek show so that people had something to listen to because the world was becoming a horrible place. So, as the world lightened up, it went to once every other week. It's staying at once every other week because I'm back in work now. But if I was furloughed again, they'd be back to once a week, whilst the world seems to have gone to pot again. But anyway, so yeah, Irish Ghosts and Scottish Witches and Wizards. So that's what we're going to look at today in more detail. Yes, we are. A lot of people have been asking what went on in the house in terms of noises that I've heard and things not materialised, things moving around, shall we say. And in truth, nothing since, really. There's been nothing of note. I'm racking my brains now to think, has anything happened? And if I am racking my brains, that means no, because let's be honest, I'm not going to go, oh yeah, the Grim Reaper was in the toilet, and suddenly remember that one. Anyway, we're going to do Irish Ghosts first. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to scan through the book. I'm going to stop it at a random place. We're going to look at what the ghost story is, and we're going to discuss it somewhat. There we go. That wasn't a sound effect, you know. It sounds like it, doesn't it? But that was a genuine... Here we go again. I can do this at will, you know. You just need a microphone and a book. There we go. Stop. A banshee in Italy. Ooh, this sounds quaint, doesn't it just? Elliot O'Donnell gives the story of a banshee that came to a family of Irish extraction living in Italy. They were the Neilsonese, descended from one of the O'Neills. Did you know I'm descended from the O'Neills too? Yes, we are. My nan, this is Kev speaking now, my nan, her family's from Wexford, and there's O'Neills involved, and apparently they do something with sports clothes. That's as much as I know. I'll move on. An officer who had served in the French army, the French King's Irish Brigade, who had fled France after the Revolution of 1879, or 1789 even, read that back to front. In time, he became a wealthy count in Italy and changed his family name to something more Italian-sounding. His great-grandson inherited the family's wealth and title, was cruising in his own yacht with a party of friends on one of the lakes in the Italian Alps. At one point, one of the guests asked him, "Count, who is that strange-looking woman over there?" Puzzled, the Count replied that they were the only guests, and their wives, of course. Oh, and the stewardess on board. "Oh no," said the other man, an army colonel. "I have certainly seen someone else." Then he gave a gasp, put his hands before his eyes, and exclaimed, "Oh my God, what a face!" he exclaimed. "What is it?" asked the Count, greatly concerned. "It's gone." "Oh," replied the colonel. "It was like nothing belonging to this world. A woman of no earthly type with a queer-shaped, gleaming face, a mass of red hair, and eyes that would have been beautiful but for their expression, which was hellish. She wore a green hood like an Irish peasant woman." "That sounds like a banshee," said one of the party. "Well, we are Irish," said the Count, and told them the story of his grandfather. "It means the death of someone very closely associated with me," he said jollily. "Pray God it's not my wife or daughter." But it was he himself who was seized 2 hours later with an attack of angina pectoris, and he died later, that same day. There you go, a story of a banshee in Italy. So you see, banshees get around. I wonder if we are related to the O'Neills, which we are, then I wonder if we have the same banshee. Interesting. I hope not, because apparently she has hellish eyes and is quite peasant-looking. No, but not a good combination, if I've learnt anything in my 41 years on the earth. But yeah, no, I wonder now, because, my father's father is an Irishman. So my grandfather is an Irishman. He's from Dublin. My nan is family. My nan's family's from Wexford. I wonder if there's a Eustace Banshee. I doubt it. Rarely. The only screams that will come at the point of death of a Eustace is when they realise the debt that they're going to inherit. That's what I think. Right. Anyway, more. Stop. Am I telling myself to stop? Silly boy. This is called The Treasure Bearers of Dunanore. Well, this sounds exciting. I think we can all agree. Near the village of Cummer on Cape Clear is the remains of an old castle called Dunanore, or the Golden Fort. It was once the home of the O'Driscolls. In the past, it was linked by a causeway to the mainland, but now can only be reached by a scramble over tumbled rocks. The gold in the name Golden Fort has given rise to legends of treasure. It is possible that the gold was dug in the country inland. However, it is probably more likely that the castle was a pirate's haven, where the gold and other treasure looted from ships out at sea was took for safekeeping. One of the stories of Dunanore tells how at night a ghostly ship came into moor in the bay. Soundlessly, boats are slung from her side, and the rowers pull their way from the ship to the castle. The boats laden with treasure. From the shore, the treasure is taken up to the old gateway, and then the treasure bearers disappear inside the castle ruins. Yet it is a ship of dead men. Their faces corpse pale, their clothes slashed by sword cuts, their bodies showing great wounds. Some of them have their throats cut, egads. Yet still they shoulder their bags and drag their chests over the rocks, while the bats flit about the gaunt ruin of the broken tower and the sheltered walls. Walls. There we go. A piratey ghost story there. Ooh, missus. I say, Captain Hook. Is that a hook, or you just... No, it's a hook. Sorry, I'm drinking lots of coffee today. I did expect this to be a mobile one, where I walk about with a recorder. But I couldn't find the recorder. As I'm sitting here talking now, I can see it now, and I don't know why I didn't look over there. Not 100% convinced this isn't our little ghosty moving things around. But, I didn't know it was over there. Not that any of you can see this, but it's behind the fan, okay? It's behind the fan in the living room. Okay, let's have another. Oh, no title. No title again. The Haunted Mantelpiece. Well, I think we can all agree that sounds bone-shakingly terrifying, doesn't it? The Haunted Mantelpiece. Egads, I went to put something on it, and it fell through, for it was a ghostly mantelpiece. Aye. Sorry, if you want to know what aye is, when I used to read comics as a child, and if there were a war comic, where someone was at war. When one of the foreign enemy soldiers would be killed, they would say, and I'll spell it, as they died, they would clutch their chest, and the noise out of their mouth would be A-A-A-I-I-I-I-E-E-E-E-I-E. And for about a year-long period, when I was starting to watch films as I was going through my very, very, very early teens / late 9-year-olds, I always used to wonder why when people were shot in the films, they didn't go, aye, like that was the noise you made if you got shot. Which would have made for a very different RoboCop, wouldn't it, really? Anyway, the Haunted Mantelpiece, ladies and gentlemen. A marble mantelpiece, originally from Dunsdale House in County Galway, was bought by a sculptor in Dublin, Christy O'Neill. He was busy in his workshop late one evening when he happened to glance towards the mantelpiece. He saw the shadowy figure of a tall man standing beside it. When he moved towards it, the figure vanished, but immediately afterwards, pieces of marble rose up, apparently of their own accord, and moved about the studio. Both the sculptor and his family heard strains of music. O'Neill made some inquiries at Dunsdale and was told that the tall ghost had indeed been seen in the castle, but not since the fireplace had been sold. Uh-oh. This tale came to the attention of the American ghost hunter, Hans Holzer, during a visit to Ireland. Holzer received a further account from Roger Kilbride, who in 1940 had been part of a detachment of soldiers belittled. They were belittled outdoors, so stupid soldiers we are. Now, they were billeted in Dunsdale House. He was a cook sergeant and with his team was bedded down in the dining room. When about 15 minutes after midnight, they heard the sound of a violin playing. They attributed it to another member of the troupe, one Carmody, who had a violin on which he played Irish airs. But this, they agreed, was not Irish, but high-class music stuff. What? That's badly racist. And next morning they found that Carmody had pawned his fiddle anyway, and that there'd definitely been no radio playing. The mystery of the music was not resolved, and they did not hear it again. But in 1957, Roger Kilbride read a story in a newspaper, the Sunday Review, about a haunted fireplace from Dunsdale House. When it was vacated by the army in 1945, the owners of Dunsdale House moved back in and sold various items, including the fireplace, to a dealer in Dublin, who installed the fireplace in his own sitting room. But when he found that strange violin music emanated from it, he had the fireplace taken out. Holzer contacted the owners of the castle in the course of 1965 and was informed that Dunsdale was now in a ruinous state. The owners had transferred the mantelpiece to their new home at Clonmacastle Castle in County Offaly, but no music came from it. Where the haunted mantelpiece now may be, and what caused the violin music, is apparently not known. No. So there you go, guys. If you've recently bought a marble antique fireplace, and of a night you hear some awful Irish music, quote, then there's a good chance there's a demon haunting your mantelpiece. And just when you thought, don't you have to do the Ouija board or something to get a demon? Apparently not. No. All you need to do is have a mantelpiece. Yes, he must have been very attached to that mantelpiece, mustn't he? I love my mantelpiece. When I die, mantelpiece, I'm going to stay with you. Oh, the lovely mantelpiece. That's what he must have been like, I presume. Okay, here's a little one called St. Patrick's Bell. In legend, St. Patrick is reputed to have rid Ireland of snakes, toads, and other undesirable creatures by ringing his bell at the edge of a cliff and then throwing it over. The creatures followed it over the brink, falling to their deaths, but the bell was each time returned to the saint by angelic hands. Some pilgrims making the ascent of Croagh Patrick have heard the sound of a handbell ringing from the top as they struggled up. Unlike the snakes, they found the sound encouraging and revivifying. It actually says revivifying. Never heard that word before. And it helped them to complete the arduous climb to the summit. But there was no one with a bell when they reached the oratory on the mountaintop. This phenomenon has been particularly noticed during the 40 days of Lent. Lent. That's interesting, isn't it? Also, though, it kind of, I think, incorrectly assumes there that the humans found the bell lovely, whereas the snakes and toads found it horrible. But they went after the bell as well, in the exact same way the humans did. So, yeah. Know your St. Paddy research there, lad. Know what I mean. Okay, let's have another one. Not many more, don't worry. We'll get through this together. Why do I keep telling myself to stop? What's the Ooh, animal spirits. This is called The Speckled Dog. And I think by the title alone, we know it's about cats. Now, let's see. There are many accounts of supernatural beasts in Ireland with monsters amongst them, but often they take the form of more familiar creatures like dogs. Most frequently it's a black dog, but one of Lady Gregory's informants told her of a speckled dog he saw in a house near Lochray. He had been sent to collect a pig for the butcher and, arriving late, was given a bed for the night. He awoke and looked out to see a cow in the field eating the potatoes. Going down to drive off the cow, he came into the kitchen where a speckled dog with spots of black and white and yellow lay by the hearth, the haunted hearth. The moment he entered, the dog rose and went out through the door, though the door was both shut and locked. When he told this to the owners of the house, they were frightened and begged him to stay another night. That night, as he lay in bed, he felt the bedclothes being peeled off, and a heavy blow struck him in the chest as cold as ice. That's effing terrifying. Terrified, he pulled the bedclothes up again and covered his head. He left the house next morning and never returned. Well, that's unsurprising, is it? You're hardly going to come down to breakfast and be like, hello, yes, I'll have 2 sausages, please. Well, I must say, I was attacked in my bed last night. Yes. No, a sudden icy blow to the chest. Wonder what'll happen tonight. Yes, 2 sugars. No, you wouldn't. You just leave, wouldn't you? Like that clever boy did. Here's another one. Let's see. The animal tradition. Let me see. Animals play a large part in many accounts of the supernatural events throughout the world, not least in Ireland. Like some of the aspects of the occult, this can be traced back far into Celtic lore, which is rich in stories of shapeshifters, of men who become dogs, and dogs that become men, of creatures half animal and half human. In 1 or 2 of the stories recorded in this book, men put on animal masks in order to carry out evil deeds. It is intriguing, in more recent times, how frequently tamed animals, such as the domestic cat and dog and the horse, feature in domestically tamed animals, the horse, anyway, featured in supernatural experiences, almost as if our own human guilt at stealing their primeval innocence was coming back to accuse us. That's exactly what's happening, author, yes. That's not a story either, that's like another thing. Anyway, we're going to end our little extra today, because I technically should be working, I'll be honest. I mean, it is me lunch, but that's why I'm in a bit of a rush. I want to deliver you some content, but I also have to work for a living. Sad but true, as Metallica once said. Ow. So this is called The Thing in the Lodgings. Jinx. There we go. Elliot O'Donnell, who died in 1965, God bless, aged almost 90, well, I take it back, who had a good innings there, was, as we've seen, where have we seen? Okay, I'll just read this out without my very, very funny witticisms, which I think we can all agree. Anyway, The Thing in the Lodgings. Elliot O'Donnell, who died in 1965, aged almost 90, was, as we have seen, citation needed, a lifelong student of the paranormal. As a young college student in Dublin, he had an alarming experience in a lodging house close to the Waterloo Road. After spending the evening with student friends who lived in the same house, he had gone to bed. As usual, he locked his room door, then put out the light and went to bed. The room had thick curtains, but rays of moonlight filtered through the gap, and in the shaft of light, O'Donnell saw something more. He looked more intently at the place, and was horrified to see what he later called the shape of something dark and sinister rise up from the floor, without a sound, and swiftly approach his bed. Laying down, a person always feels more helpless in any sort of predicament. Citation needed. I've seen UFC fighters start on the ground, so you know. I know that UFC wasn't invented then, so fair play. And O'Donnell felt the familiar sense of powerlessness as the presence loomed up over him. He could not move a muscle or make a sound despite his feeling of panic. As he lay there, he felt the thing, whose shape was indistinct in the darkness, suddenly leap at him. Strong, bony fingers gripped him around the throat and pressed him back against the mattress. Grasping and choking, he tried to struggle free, but the strength of the strangling fingers was too great. So he died then, did he? I take it. When I turn this page, I imagine he's dead. Let me see. O'Donnell felt a buzzing in his ears and felt certain death was upon him. Then he lost consciousness. When he came to, some time later, there was no sign of his assailant. He struck a light and examined the room carefully. The door was still locked, the window bolted on the inside, but the room appeared to be empty of all the usual furnishings. So he'd been burgled then. So little time had passed, he could still hear his friends talking elsewhere in the house. O'Donnell was already no stranger to ghostly manifestations, or he might have fled the room there and then. Instead, not without trepidation, may I add, he tried to settle back to sleep. Eventually, he did fall asleep. Of course he did. Attempted murder? No, I must get my 40 winks. Let me see. Eventually he did fall asleep, and when he woke, it was with the same sensation as before, that something horribly sinister was right by his bedside. Why would you go back asleep, you utter bellend? The sky was already beginning to turn grey outside. He pulled the bedclothes up over his head, protective, and lay curled up there until he heard the landlady knock on his door. He asked the landlady to give him another room, but she did without demur, and he moved his things out of the haunted room that very day. But it was only when he came to leave the house for good that the landlady admitted that other people had been attacked in that room too. Well, she's getting off a 5-star TripAdvisor review, isn't she? Yes, well done, landlady. Can I have room 6, please? Of course you can. Have a nice night's sleep. Watch out for the murderer. Lol. At an earlier time, the house had been a sort of private asylum for the care of the insane. Lovely. In that room, although she did not know the details, someone had been violently killed. Wow. I'm not sure she was the landlady, really. Yeah, she's done her research there. This was the experience which O'Donnell said turned him into a ghost hunter. For all his terror, he was also intrigued by what had happened to him, and what must have happened at one time in that room to preserve it in such a tangible spirit of malevolence and murderous impulse. Pulse. So, there we go, guys. Just a little thing to hopefully allow you to lose yourself from the world's trappings. Me being an idiot talking about Irish ghosts. I think we can all agree. I certainly forgot about everything in the world for that little 20 minutes. I hope you did too. If you want to continue forgetting about the world, I'm shortly taking to Patreon to talk about Scottish witches and wizards in the same vein. And of course, you can do that by going over to patreon.com/we need to talk about ghosts and signing up there. And if it's losing yourself you're all about, there's over 100 extra episodes over there for Patreons only that you can go and binge to your heart's content, and some videos, etc., etc. But either way, the cat jumps, as my nan used to say. We will speak to you on Sunday for the episode proper. Hooray. Now remember, it's very important that you do look after yourselves and each other. It is copyright Jeremy Springer back in the mid-90s. But, you know, I'm bringing it back to life. And I think, God rest his soul, is he still alive, actually? I'll check on that. But either way, I think he'd appreciate that. Or sue me. It's really up to him. Okay, chat to you, bye.